Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. We've got people from all over the world here tuning into this wonderful panel we have prepared today, and I'm incredibly excited to get started. Today's panel is called Game Changers in Financial Technology, where we'll be talking about the next generation of technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and crypto, and how these will drastically change the way that we transact and use money across our world, and how you, as a young entrepreneur, can get started to gain an edge from key business leaders in the industry. My name is Justin Ma. I previously studied at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania before dropping out to create a few companies, one of which was a viral social app, and the other was a fintech marketplace that I worked on with the CEO and founder of Zoom. And currently, I'm the co-founder and CEO of a $40 million quantitative crypto research firm focused on digital assets. Today, we're joined by two wonderful and amazing speakers, Michael Swensson and Andrew Bulakul. Michael is the co-founder and COO of M31 Capital. M31 Capital is a leading global investment firm focused exclusively on crypto assets and blockchain technology. And prior to M31, Michael served as the COO of the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater Associates. And previously, he served as a vice president of one of the largest and most prestigious investment banks in the world, Goldman Sachs. The other panelist we have today is Andrew. Andrew is the executive vice president and president of investments at the Brooker Group, which is the number one largest shareholder of digital assets amongst public companies in Southeast Asia and the number two largest holder in Asia. And I have to say that I've had the honor and tremendous pleasure of meeting both before this panel. And there is, without a doubt, no better people to be listening from with regards to fintech, crypto, and entrepreneurship. And as an entrepreneur myself, I wish I had spoken with Michael and Andrew before and throughout my entrepreneurship journey, as their story is incredibly inspiring and helpful to all budding entrepreneurs. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Michael and Andrew to the stage. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for having us, Justin.
Of course, of course. Well, let's get started, shall we? So as kind of stated, you guys have very impressive and extensive traditional finance and professional backgrounds before going straight into the new digital assets industry. So could both of you guys start by briefly introducing your professional journey and how you guys went from working to traditional finance to what you believe is the next generation of financial technology? Michael, if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Justin. Michael Swensson, COO and co-founder at M31 Capital. Just give you a little bit of my background, which was a pretty unorthodox journey to get me where I am today. I grew up in a very small blue-collar town in central Pennsylvania, not too far from University of Penn. I never had aspirations of being in finance or, being an investor in technologies or anything like that. I just kind of, discovered my passion for this space just organically, right? And I think it's one of the beautiful things about each of our own individual journeys throughout our careers of how we get from where we started to where we end up. It's not always written out in a playbook, right? And so, I was telling Justin when we spoke last week, a little bit about my journey. I started at school at Temple, actually in Philadelphia. Did a couple semesters there, and then decided school was just not for me, right? I'm a very experiential learner, and I like learning things by doing things, right? And so I ended up dropping out of Temple. I landed my first job at a credit union, running back office operations at the night shift, and just getting my kind of cutting my technical chops on learning about systems and architectures and things like that. And I was both blessed, but also at the right place at the right time, where I was able to take on a bunch of new roles throughout my career without having a college degree. And I'm not saying I'm not advocating for folks to drop out of school by any means. I'm just everyone has to kind of find their path to where they want to go. And it did not hold me back, but largely it's because I think I was willing to take the challenges that were in front of me and seize the opportunity when the moment was right. Right. And so for me, my initial job in central Pennsylvania led me to Connecticut to work at my first hedge fund, which then led me to AllianceBernstein and Goldman Sachs, all while not having that college degree. And people always say, well, how'd you get hired at Goldman Sachs? And I think a lot of it is about what more than what's on a piece of paper, right? And I did end up going back and finishing my degree at Goldman Sachs. They actually ended up encouraging me to go back, and I finished at NYU. But it was one of those things that I don't think I would have gotten to Goldman had I not taken those opportunities earlier in my career when they were in front of me. And so I'm glad I took that chance and that risk. And I always encourage folks around me, whether they're still in school or just coming out of school, to really just kind of discover themselves and seize those moments when they come. So as Justin was mentioning, just to be somewhat quick here, I spent a couple of years at Goldman Sachs, which then led me up to Bridgewater Associates, where I spent about 5 years of my career working alongside Ray Dalio as he was transitioning out and the new CEOs were coming in. And I think it was back in late 2018, after spending about 20 years of my career in traditional finance, I started learning a lot more about blockchain technologies and getting very, very interested personally. I'd say it was about a year of discovery for myself when I realized I spent the past 20 years in the wrong industry altogether. So it's again, it's part of that journey. It's okay. Like, I don't think, I love the experiences I had in the past 20 years. But I knew at that moment, what this technology represented, and I understood the incredible innovation that was happening in the space. And that's the time I got connected to my now co-founder, Nathan. And we spent about a year thinking about how to bring together my traditional finance experience with his very crypto native experience and launching M31 Capital. And again, it was not without risk. I left a 20-year career in traditional finance. I was working at the world's largest hedge fund. I'd probably still be there today if I didn't make that decision. But I knew this was the space I wanted to be in, and I knew I wanted to take a chance on myself and a chance to kind of help further adopt these amazing technologies. So it's a little bit of my background, a little unorthodox, but every step of the way they all kind of add up.
Now, before I go on to Andrew, I just want to ask you a quick question, Michael, because I think your story is very incredibly inspiring and very interesting. When you just started off, did you know that you would be, or did you have this feeling or vision that you would be where you are today when you just started off at Temple?
Absolutely not. No, never thought I'd be working for some of the biggest banks and hedge funds in the world. Never thought I'd be running my own, global investment fund with, 20 employees around the world and, 4 different funds up and running. And, but that's, again, like I always tell, interns and students I work with closely or that I mentor, that's okay. Like, that's, each of us has to kind of go through that own discovery process. And that takes a lot of different shapes and forms. It took me about a 10-year gap to finish my university and my degree. And, my story doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. And my feedback has always been, you trust your gut and follow your heart and good things will happen. Right.
Right. I think that's exactly it. Now, moving on to Andrew. Andrew, could you please describe your professional journey, how you came to be, and the transition, especially amongst Brooker Group, from this traditional finance industry to what you guys believe could be the next generation of financial technology?
Sure. Yeah, and I totally agree with Michael, and that's a fascinating career path. I think I started a bit differently. I really had a good role model, which was my father, and he was a very successful investment banker in Thailand. Did a lot of mega-sized deals. One of like the very creative financial advisors, and that kind of led me to want to inspire towards his skills, his abilities, his recognition. So I started off in investment banking. And I found that really challenging, but I also enjoyed learning about different sectors in the industry. Started in like energy and then rotated into property. So really digging through the business model, doing the financial models really helps you understand the business. And I love that because once you know exactly, all the assumptions that can go in, even though if they turn out wrong, but you can always recalibrate, what the next projection will look like in your head. And I think that's an important skill set that I picked up along the way. Um, so our company is, I guess, moving towards a transition in a succession from my father's generation to my generation.
Mm.
And as the younger leaders, we're looking at new industries that we think we can add a lot of value, as well as bring in our skill sets from the traditional side of finance. And digital assets made the most sense. And I also fell in love with reading, Bitcoin white paper for the first time. And, I had some IT background also. So, did some coding classes back in university. So really understanding that, the future of money is about to change very, very drastically. And with the new technology that kept piling up, the smart contracts, the Web3 stuff, the NFT, it was a really, really exciting space. So that's when we decided to pivot our company into investing almost 40% of our assets in digital assets.
Wow.
Thanks to Michael Saylor, who led the way in this direction, because we're also a publicly listed company. And since he showed us the way that a public listed company in Nasdaq in the US can do it, then so can a company in Thailand. And of course, it wasn't as smooth sailing as I tell the story. There's a lot of concern at that time. A lot of regulators were asking like, "Oh, what's going on?" Nobody really took the time to really study in digital assets. But as we move forward today, I think it's quite clear that even BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, is about to launch or applied for ETF. So I think this brings a lot of justification, a lot of
Right.
validity to this space. And I think what I'm really proud of is that this new direction, our shareholder count jumped from 4,000 to almost 30,000. And we are very happy that we are able to bring in a new wave of new generation investors to follow us on this path. So I'm quite excited for the way moving forward.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting, and I'm sure many of the people in the audience are also very excited. We also have a lot of people in the audience that are quite unfamiliar with the whole ethos and purpose of crypto. Many people, they see the NFTs, they see the pictures of these monkeys on screen going out for millions of dollars, and they see these coins that have a picture of a dog on top of them that they're kind of getting people out of retirement, or people into retirement, I should say. And people don't really understand. It seems like many people don't really understand what the true purpose of crypto. So, Andrew, I feel like you'd be the perfect person to talk about this with regards to your history and converting from a traditional finance background to this. Could you briefly explain to the audience what exactly do you see as the true significance and a true potential of crypto, blockchain, and Web3?
I mean, to be really honest, I think we're still early in this space. So to have a proper definition to confine this space is quite dangerous. I think it's still growing in all sorts of direction. Depending on who you are, if you, it's a technology that has so many use cases. Some people, can see the benefit today of using it as remittance, especially in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of foreign workers outside their home country, and they're getting destroyed by like the Western Union rates. They're paying maybe like 5 to 15% in fees, which crypto already immediately
Right.
solves that. You can transfer stable coin and settle like almost instantly. So I think that's like one way to look at it. I mean, some of the more professional side might look at it as like a digital gold, more of a treasury, more of like a inflation head, or central bank, instead of central bank like printing a lot of their local currency. The
Mm.
Bitcoin has like 21 million. Other use cases come in the form of like smart contracts, so you can actually code certain rules into how the money is can trigger certain conditions on like the transfer, or on the loan, or on the interest. So that opens like a whole new financial aspect to uh, blockchain and crypto. So I just want to point out that it's still early. People are still, it's an open source direction, so people are actually copying each other's code and adding a lot more spin to it, or their creative process in it, and we're just creating a very, very fast growing ecosystem that I think this is what a lot of people refer to as the exponential age.
Right. And Michael, what about you? What do you think is the true significance and potential of crypto, blockchain, and Web3?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Andrew just articulated in terms of where we are in that journey. Look, I'd say first, take a step back, right? I think everyone hears the word blockchain or hears the word crypto, and it seems big and complex and scary, but it's not, right? I mean, at the end of the day, why we're here, why M31's here, and I'm sure Andrew and others, is we see the technology and the innovation that's being created, right? At the end of the day, and we see the possibilities of how that's going to enable a better future, right? What these technologies are faster, they're cheaper, they're more efficient, they're more private, they're censorship resistant. They're going to enable everyone, no matter what part of the world you're in, to be able to work together, collaborate together, do business together in a way that is not possible with existing, Web 2 technologies. And so for us, we really try to focus exclusively on projects that are solving those real world problems, right? We're not investing in NFTs and gaming and art. I find those things personally interesting, but we're mostly focused on, okay, there's a technology that exists today, a Web 2 technology. Here's a Web 3 alternative. Here's how it's better, and here's how we can help grow and scale that network to the masses, right? And so we're really trying to focus on just solving real world problems for every single person around the world. And we're doing that. And it just so happens to be that those are technologies being powered by blockchain, right? And that's one of the points Andrew made, which I really endorse and support, is, these are technologies, whether it's a smart contract or whatever it may be, that are just now barely scratching the surface of the possibilities, right? We haven't really fully seen the utility of what these things can be used for. But that's okay. We're only 10, 11 years into this industry as an asset class, right? And so I always tell our investors, it's a lot like participating in Silicon Valley back in the early 1980s, right? These are brand new technologies and a brand new asset class that have the potential to disrupt generations to come, right? And you can't just flip that switch on overnight. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. There's going to be a lot of learning. But the thing that's very different about this space than my traditional finance experience of 20 years is, a day in blockchain is like a year in traditional finance. I mean, that's literally how fast innovation is happening because of the open source nature, because of the collaborative nature of this space. And you just got to be careful. You just got to, do a lot of research. You got to do a lot, education is super important. We do a lot of educational things on our side of the house for our community. And you just got to know, what you're looking at and why it makes sense. And then most important, is it technology that you think should belong in the world tomorrow, right? And if it is, finding ways to participate or get involved to kind of help be part of that journey.
Yeah, I think the real world application is something that should be really focused on, highlighted upon. Many people, they just see the kind of the meme parts, they see the dog coins, they see the ape pictures, but they don't really see the true real world application. So before we move on, I do want to touch really briefly upon Andrew's point of remittance. Right now, if someone from the US were to send money to, let's say, someone in Southeast Asia, it would take many days. The process is very hard. Essentially, what happens is I would have to go to a process like Western Union. I'd have to send them money, and then they take a pretty large fee, as Andrew said, and then they kind of convert it into some cash pickup, which the party on the other end will have to come and pick that up physically at a store. This part it's very time consuming, whereas regards to crypto, it's directly peer-to-peer, and it eliminates all the parties in between, and it eliminates all the costs and fees associated with it. So even though we're still very early, I think we're already starting to see many of the positive ramifications of the industry itself. So now, Michael, I want to focus back on you. So you have a very extensive traditional finance background. How do you see the existing TradFi space, abbreviated for traditional finance, evolving and coexisting with the new wave of digital assets and crypto in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. I might have a slightly different viewpoint than others on this, but a lot of people think, decentralized finance, which is one of our core sectors that we kind of focus on at M30. We kind of focus on decentralized finance and Web3 technologies, but within the DeFi space specifically, a lot of people think DeFi is competing to, shut down traditional finance. And I don't really share that thesis. I think that it's more of how does decentralized finance complement existing services provided by traditional financial services, right? So like how does DeFi and TradFi come together? That's more of where I see the space going, to enable companies like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and whoever it may be, right, to be able to keep up with the pace of innovation that's happening on this side of the sector, right? And so,
Michael, before we go on further, can I interrupt you for a bit? Could you explain briefly to the audience what exactly this decentralized finance or DeFi is?
Yeah, the simplest way I could put it is everything that you could do today by going into a bank or going down to Wall Street in New York City, but done digitally on the blockchain, right? So this is everything from asset management, fixed income, lending and borrowing, derivatives, you name it. Everything that you do today through a brick and mortar, through a bank, whatever, but done on the blockchain. The difference being done on the blockchain, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's peer-to-peer, it's more secure, it's censorship resistant, all those attributes that we've already described, right? And so you've already seen companies like JP Morgan executing their first DeFi trade. I know firsthand that, my former colleagues at Goldman Sachs are building out an entire digital asset team, right? Like we know that they are interested in figuring out how they participate and to what level they participate. I think part of the question or part of the delay is going to be getting the clear regulations in place, which I think are coming. I think, the first ETF approvals that Andrew was mentioning by BlackRock and others, that's going to be the first step towards that direction of getting clarity. And I do think it's going to open the floodgates, right? I do think a lot of these institutions are going to try to then figure out quickly how do they participate and to what level they participate. I ultimately see, though, these companies figuring out how they can leverage some of the technology and innovation happening in the blockchain space to better their service to their clients, right? And that's what I mean by it's not always going to be DeFi versus traditional finance, right? I think it's going to be a little bit, maybe some of that, right? But I think the other part of it's going to be how do those two things come together to really kind of create a more synergy between what they want to provide their clients by leveraging this technology. Otherwise, they're at risk of potentially being left behind, right? And so, and again, to my point on where we are in that journey, that doesn't happen overnight, right? It may start off with one lending and borrowing operation kind of integrating with an Aave or something like that, and figuring out how they can leverage that platform to provide fast, cheap, quick, on-chain borrowing and lending. And then maybe that expands to the next thing, right? So it's going to be a journey, but I think clear regulations, education is going to be key to unlocking that potential. But I definitely, just knowing, I still speak to a lot of folks from my first, 20 years of traditional finance, and they're all very interested in the space, and they're just, coming up to speed and trying to figure out how to make it work.
Speaking of new technologies and
actually, if I could just add a little bit here, because in Southeast Asia part of the world, I think many people still don't have bank accounts, and this concept of decentralized exchange, decentralized finance, I think can really benefit this group of people, because they just don't have the the KYC documents, the records. It's very difficult for them to get a loan approved. So having crypto wallets or digital wallets really is a financial inclusivity technology.
Yeah, Andrew brings up a great point there. Some of these decentralized platforms like Aave I was just describing, you can go out there on Christmas morning at 2 a.m. if you're so inclined, and it's all peer-to-peer. I can take out a loan on chain in a matter of 10 seconds for 10 cents, give my collateral up, sign a smart contract, and I have my funds deposited in my account. And so that's the power that we're trying to harness here. And it's for everybody, but specifically for those underserved areas around the world. Those technologies like Aave, where you can take out a loan for 10 cents on the dollar, for pennies, right? And in 10 seconds, have that funds directly in your account, is so powerful. And that's what we're trying to harness here.
Okay, but I can continue further on. I mean, where the topic is talking about like the future technology of this space also. So I think the biggest trend this year is on AI, right? And we're looking at like how AI and crypto or digital asset can cross over into each other. So I really believe that, the theme of AI and AI agents can really benefit with crypto wallets, because it's quite clear that AIs can never open a bank account. So how are they going to do like transactions for us, etc.? But once these AIs can be autonomous with a wallet, they can really do all sorts of transactions to really help in multiple services of every single sector in the world. And at the same time, you have NVIDIA really accelerating the robot technology of creating simulations to train robots. So I see the space as, today the AI is the brain, the robot is the bronze, and the crypto wallet is the bank account. And all three together will unlock a new, I guess, category of demographics that can really add to the GDP of the world.
I guess speaking of AI and all this new technological revolution, is there any kind of thing that you guys are particularly interested in, or anything that you guys see as the most potential for revolutionary change in fintech in the next 5 years? And do you guys have any predictions on what will happen both at the technology level and macroeconomic level within the next 5 years? Anyone can go first. Michael, if you'd like to go first on this one.
Yeah. I think Andrew stole some of my thunder with the intersection of AI and Web3, but I do think the AI narrative, which obviously is a big discussion point over the past 12 months or so, is great. But I do think this intersection of AI and Web3, and how Web3 and blockchain technologies are going to enable AI to scale to new limits, is going to be an emerging trend. I mean, I don't think people really fully understand, how existing Web2 technologies have very serious capacity constraints. But how blockchain technology will enable AI to scale to limits that we've never even seen possible, but also are going to be required to actually train the models that we're looking to train and develop the space as fast as it's looking to develop. That's one of our key focuses at M31 Capital within the Web3 fund, is looking for these very early stage AI technology plays that are specifically leveraging blockchain to help individuals scale and use AI to train models and what have you. Like even things like Jensen, where I can use my unused GPU on my iPhone or my iPad or whatever to actually lend those resources back to developers that are training models around the world, right? That idea of that fully decentralized compute network brings a power to it, just like we were talking about on the monetary side, right? It's the same thing, right? It's kind of boundaryless. You can go across borders without worrying about a data center, falling or shutting down on the West Coast and having to fail over to the East Coast. It doesn't matter. It's fully decentralized. It's up 365 days a year. And that power is going to really unlock potential, not just for the development of that space, but also incentivize users like you and myself and Andrew and others to participate in those networks. And so I think that's going to be a real big emerging trend as we look forward, as well as, I think just this institutional adoption. I think we've seen some early pioneers in the space over the past 3 to 4 years or over the past cycle start to get involved, whether it's Microsaylor and some other companies starting to get involved in getting, Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But I really think this next cycle, which I think we're on the beginning of here, heading into 2024, this is going to be the cycle where institutions really come into the space in a first-class way and really take the space, from 0 to 100 in terms of adoption, in terms of regulations, in terms of investor protections and everything else that we all want to see in the space to see it succeed. And so it's such an incredible time for people that have not yet gotten involved to get involved, right? Because it's still like we're still in that beginning inning of a baseball game, but we have a full game to go. And so I really think next year and the next 4 years, we're going to see this cycle mature and the space mature to a level we've never even experienced.
And Michael, before I jump into Andrew's POV, because I think he has a lot of interesting things to also say on this, is there any kind of resources or any kind of things that you recommend for people in the audience to look at and get involved?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great resources. Folks can go to our website, which is m31.capital. We push out weekly, monthly research, which is all data-driven research. It's unbiased. It's just painting the picture of what's going on in the space and why it matters. We do a monthly newsletter, and then there's a ton of ways for students or ex-students, ways for them to get involved, whether it's through like the M31 Academy, where we onboard interns every summer to allow them to come on and get some on the field experience, working with a fund, learning from a global team of investment professionals that are doing this every day. So there's no shortage of ways of getting informed and getting involved. I think the most important thing is finding a couple of sources that you can trust, following them on the various platforms that you follow people, and just doing a lot of reading and research on your own and discovering what you think matters, and then figuring out ways, whether it's connecting to funds like me or Andrew or whoever, on how to get connected into those ecosystems, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially nowadays where we have ChatGPT and the influx of articles and educational content. There really is lots of places where someone could learn. I think Google is a learner's best friend. That's as overstated that is, but really that's also how I started off in this very complicated, seemingly complex industry. Andrew, is there anything you'd like to say with regards to what you think is the most potential for revolutionary change within the next 5 years, or any predictions you think will happen?
Well, I guess for me, I probably think the revolutionary change will come from a new form of monetary policy to factor in all these new things happening in the exponential age era. And I guess for now, I would encourage the young people to really study up on this and vote for the right person to make the right regulation for you, because it's important to have a clear regulation that will benefit everyone in society, and it can't just be like the big corporates or the big tech that will just own this new technology like AI, or whoever has the biggest GPU, and then they can train the models however they see it's fit for their agenda. So I see that the trend should shift, and the young people today have the chance to take action.
For sure. And are there any resources that you'd like to recommend for students, or any kind of advice you like to give to students and budding
Interestingly, I actually learned a lot from TikTok. That's my first like screen through news very quickly. I can pick up a lot of like fast trends now. So I was very surprised with that. I'm not sure how the algorithm will sort what kind of feeds each country gets, but for me, I found that as a good starting point. And then Twitter, following the important people in the space, that's very important. YouTube, I mean, there's so many like free resources now, so many academies, so many workshops and education. You can also check out our website, brookergroup.com. We also have a lot of education material linked with Binance, because we're partnering with them in a lot of other activities in crypto. So I think you just need the drive, and you need the passion, and you need the curiosity to really spend a lot of time and deep dive into this space, because it could be challenging and difficult in the beginning, but I'm sure the result will pay off handsomely.
Justin, just one thing I would say. I mean, you guys are doing a great thing. The Global Game Changer Summit. Bringing the audience together to hear from folks like myself and Andrew and other panel discussions. I mean, the tools are there, right? And so, to Andrew's point, you have to have that curiosity, that desire to want to learn something. But the tools are there. Whether they reach out to you guys, we're here as resources to kind of help answer questions, even beyond this panel discussion. If someone's interested, again, I would just encourage them to ask questions, find ways to get involved, get connected, and just start that own personal journey of discovery and see where that leads you, right?
So Michael, I want to ask you a really interesting question. So if you could imagine yourself back when you were 18, 19 years old, back at Temple, and you yourself are a young teenager interested in not only breaking into the space, but also just further developing your career and professional growth. And if you can go back in time, how would you yourself get started, and what would you do to try to get an edge before everyone else?
Yeah, well, I think I just articulated some of the ways I would do that, right? Which is, again, everyone's a little bit different. For me, I sense things that I find interesting, and I very quickly come up with a plan that for me to go attack that, right? Attack that is, I don't mean like aggressively. I just mean what's going to be my plan, right? So if there, a young 18-year-old Michael Swensson sitting at Temple is getting interested in blockchain technology, I for sure would come up with a plan of how do I want to get myself educated? Who are the people I want to connect with? I would try to find myself a couple mentors in the space, that learn from people that have been doing, again, because I'm a very experiential type of person. And so, I'd want that ability to kind of see and experience what's actually happening in the space versus just sitting there reading a book. And so for me, it's, just come up with a plan that works for you. And I would say most importantly is, if it's really something that you have a passion for or a desire to learn about, just seize that opportunity, right? It doesn't matter who you are, what you know, if you're starting from scratch or if you've done some research already. This space welcomes people of all types, of all levels of education. And at the end of the day, we're just looking for people that have the passion and desire to want to help advance the space to where it wants to go next, right? I was telling you on our call really quickly here, I know we're running out of time, but I don't, when I interview people for investment analyst jobs at M31 Capital, I don't look for resumes, I don't look at where you went to school. The first thing I ask you for is send me an investment memo. Send me an ideal that you have and tell me why you think it matters. And I can get so much more from that one-page investment memo than a resume or, all the stuff you've done at school. All that stuff is great. And that shows me the picture of the character of who I'm talking to. But what I really want to get to is I want to get inside your mind of just how you think about something, right or wrong. And it's okay for you to have a different viewpoint than me. Actually, I encourage that, right? I want to be able to be challenged myself. And so we encourage different thinking, and we encourage people to kind of think outside the box when they're coming into that space.
For sure. Well, it looks like we are just about running out of time. I wish we have a bit more time, because I'd love to dive a bit more deeper into your backgrounds and your personal lives. But before we, I guess, end off with this panel, is there any kind of last minute or last kind of thoughts you'd like to impart upon the audience? Any kind of advice, anything you guys wish you knew when you started?
I think in today's world with ChatGPT, you have to make the most use out of it. I mean, you can start any career, start any business, start any sector. I think you just have to go and do it. ChatGPT can help you so much in planning and executing, in marketing, in even creating a financial model now. So I don't see why you can not learn if you don't have the will to do it. The resources there. It's a lot of this stuff is free. So just get out there and get your hands dirty. That's what I would recommend.
Very solid advice. Michael?
Yeah, I don't have much to add beyond what I've already said. Again, I just think everyone that's listening and on the call, just go through that process of what are you interested in and why, and start learning, right? And start asking questions. And you know what? You may discover that you're going down the wrong path and you're interested in something else, and that's 100% okay. Like that's the journey we've all been on in different shapes and forms. But by learning and seeking and trying to understand different areas or different parts of the space, specifically in this world, you will eventually find that thing that really kind of drives you, and then you can start to kind of formalize what you want to do with that next.
Yes, I think one important part, both in life and professional career, is to have big dreams, have big ambitions, but to also trust the process. There's a famous Japanese quote called Kaizen, which implies getting better 1% every day, not trying to get 100% the next day. There's also a famous quote in Chinese proverb saying that a man moves a mountain by removing one stone at a time. So I think one big takeaway from this panel is to start small. You can start anywhere between your local community and focus on a problem that you particularly are very passionate about. And every day, just attempt to solve that problem. We have people like Michael who didn't even realize or know that he'd end up in this position himself, but he'd work hard every day, and over time, it compounded into where he is now. So I think that is a very beautiful place to end today's panel. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Michael and Andrew, you guys were amazing panelists. If you guys like to leave your contact info, or if there's anyone within the audience that would like to contact you guys, I don't know if you guys like to share that, but if you want to ask me for advice, my email is justinma1924@gmail.com. Feel free to email me with any question you guys have. Michael and Andrew, I don't know if you guys like.
Yeah, likewise. Anyone can reach out to me directly. Again, our website is m31.capital, and my email address is michael@m31.capital.
Yeah, and you can reach out to me at Varut, VARUT, @brookergroup.com.
Awesome. Well, with that, we conclude today's panel on game changers in financial technology. Michael and Andrew, thanks so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And good luck to everyone.
Best of luck.
Good luck to everyone.